The morning air was fresh and cool, carrying the scent of wet grass and distant earth. The sun had just started to peek over the horizon, painting the savanna in shades of gold and orange. A soft wind moved through the tall grasses, causing them to sway gently, and the sound was like nature whispering to itself. In this calm, a young lion cub played near the edge of a slow-moving river, its small paws making light prints in the damp soil. The cub's fur was still slightly damp from an early morning exploration, and its eyes shone with curiosity and wonder. Every so often, it would stumble over the uneven ground, only to shake itself off and continue with playful determination. Not far away, the mother lion watched closely. She lay low on a slight rise, blending with the surrounding grasses, her amber eyes never leaving the cub. The bond between them was strong, built over months of care, protection, and gentle lessons. She had taught the cub how to move silently, how to listen for danger, and how to recognize the faintest signs of the river's change. Today, however, the cub seemed too excited to pay attention to the mother's silent warnings. It pawed at sticks, sniffed at flowers, and occasionally rolled over in the grass with pure joy. The mother's gaze softened as she watched, a quiet pride in her expression, even as a sense of alertness stayed in her posture. The river, usually calm and inviting, began to murmur differently. Small waves lapped against the shore more forcefully, and the wind seemed to carry a heavier scent of wet earth and rising water. Clouds far away were moving quickly, darkening the horizon, and the birds flying overhead began to scatter, their calls sharp and urgent. The mother lion noticed these changes instantly. Her instincts, honed over years of survival in the wild, picked up on the subtle signs that something was coming. She shifted slightly, muscles tensing, eyes scanning the river and the distant sky. The cub, oblivious to these signals, spotted a small butterfly hovering near a cluster of flowers. Its little body leapt and tumbled, trying to catch the fluttering creature, completely unaware of the growing danger. The mother let out a low, quiet growl, a sound meant to catch the cub's attention without alarming it too much. The cub paused for a moment, ears twitching, and looked back at its mother with innocent curiosity before returning to its playful pursuit. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of rain from distant hills. It was still faint, but enough to alert the mother lion that a storm was brewing. The clouds now gathered more closely, and flashes of distant lightning illuminated the sky in quick, bright bursts. She rose slowly to her feet, her body coiled with readiness. The cub noticed the sudden movement and let out a small, excited yelp, thinking it was a new game. It trotted toward its mother, but the river, now looking slightly more restless, drew its attention again. With a sudden, playful bound, the cub approached the water's edge. The ground beneath its paws was soft, damp, and slippery from early morning dew. It sniffed at the water curiously, pawed at small ripples, and watched as the reflections of the clouds danced on the surface. The mother lion's heart skipped a beat. She padded closer, low to the ground, muscles tensed, every sense focused on the cub. The wind now carried the sound of rustling trees and distant rolling thunder. It was a warning of what was to come, and she knew the cub could not understand the danger. The cub, still fascinated by the water, leaned a little too close. Tiny waves lapped at its paws, and a sudden, slightly stronger ripple made it stumble. It let out a small yelp, more from surprise and fear. The mother lion was instantly by its side, nuzzling it gently, licking its fur to calm it. Her presence reassured the cub, and it quickly shook off the unease, resuming its playful antics. She relaxed slightly but kept her eyes on the river, noting every movement, every change in the water. Nearby, the savanna life continued its usual rhythm. Birds chirped cautiously from the trees, small insects buzzed in the warm air, and the occasional rustle of leaves signaled animals moving in the distance. Everything seemed ordinary, yet the mother lion knew the signs of nature's unpredictability. She had faced sudden storms and fast-rising rivers before, and every experience had taught her to never underestimate the power of water, even when it appeared calm. The cub's energy seemed boundless. It chased a dragonfly along the riverbank, leapt over small rocks, and rolled down gentle slopes, tumbling over itself in laughter-like yelps. The mother followed, always a step behind, ensuring it remained safe while allowing it the freedom to explore. She knew that curiosity was essential for growth and survival, but instincts reminded her constantly that danger could strike in an instant. As the sun climbed higher, the clouds grew darker, forming a thick, gray blanket over the landscape. The air felt heavier, and occasional gusts made the grass ripple violently. The river's gentle murmur had become more urgent, a subtle but persistent roar that suggested the water was awakening. The mother stood at the edge, sniffing the air and listening intently. Her cub, unaware of the brewing storm, was still fascinated by the moving water, pawing at it and watching the ripples with wide eyes. The wind brought new scents, of wet soil and distant rain, of rising waters upstream. The mother's instincts were screaming warnings, but she remained calm outwardly, projecting a sense of safety for the cub. She knew sudden panic could frighten the little one, and fear could make it run into danger instead of away from it. Her amber eyes never left the river, her body coiled like a spring ready to act at a moment's notice. The cub's playful energy showed no signs of fading. It spotted a small frog hopping near the water's edge and attempted to pounce, slipping slightly in the soft mud. The mother's quick reflexes caught it mid-tumble, her paw steadying it. The cub looked up with a mix of surprise and admiration, nuzzling its mother briefly before darting off again, curiosity pulling it back to the river. In the distance, the first rumbles of thunder rolled across the plains. They were low and far away, almost inaudible, but enough for the mother lion to raise her head and scan the horizon. The sky, once golden, was now streaked with shades of gray and violet. Flashes of lightning illuminated the clouds, casting fleeting shadows over the landscape. The cub paused briefly, sensing the change in the atmosphere, but the playful spirit returned quickly. It pawed at the grass, chased small birds, and occasionally looked at the river as if inviting it to join in the game. The mother moved closer to the water, watching its rise carefully. She could see that upstream, the rain must have been falling heavily, for the water was creeping steadily toward the bank. Every instinct told her to stay alert, to be ready to act, but she allowed the cub a few more moments of innocent play. Life in the wild required balance, protection and freedom, caution and curiosity. The wind howled softly through the tall grass, carrying the scent of wet earth and rain. The cub noticed a small leaf floating on the water and reached out to touch it, splashing slightly. The mother's eyes narrowed slightly, a mixture of watchfulness and quiet anticipation. She knew that soon the playful morning would turn serious, that the river would demand respect, and the cub would need protection she might have to fight fiercely to give. As the first drops of rain began to fall, gentle at first, the cub tilted its head upward, feeling the cool touch. The mother nuzzled it, moving her body between it and the river, a silent shield against the growing danger. The drops grew heavier, and the soft murmur of the river became a more urgent sound. She could see it, the river awakening, the storm arriving, the moment when calm would end, and her courage would be tested in ways that only a mother could understand. The storm that had been quietly gathering strength upstream suddenly announced itself with a distant, low rumble of thunder. The once gentle river now surged with a force that was impossible to ignore, swelling rapidly and carrying debris along with it. The wind whipped through the grasses, bending them violently, and the rain began to fall in heavy sheets, soaking the ground and blurring the landscape. The mother lion's ears twitched, her muscles tensing as she watched the water rise with alarm. The cub, still curious and playful, approached the riverbank despite the increasing force of the current. Its small paws sank slightly into the soft, muddy soil, and the water lapped at its legs, cold and strong. It pawed at the waves, trying to understand the strange behavior of the river, unaware of the danger. Suddenly, a powerful surge swept it off balance. Before the cub could react, the water gripped its tiny body and carried it downstream, its yelps drowned by the roar of the flood. The mother lion let out a bone-chilling roar that echoed across the plains. Her eyes, wide with fear and determination, followed the cub as it was carried away. Without hesitation, she plunged into the raging water, each step a struggle against the torrent. The current was strong, twisting around her legs, pulling at her fur, but she moved forward, driven by a fierce maternal instinct. Every muscle in her body worked in unison as she fought the swirling water, her focus entirely on the cub. The cub struggled to keep its head above water, fighting instinctively against the powerful flow. The mother closed the distance slowly, using her powerful limbs to navigate the obstacles in the water. Floating branches and debris collided with her, but she pushed forward relentlessly. Her roar, a mixture of warning and encouragement, rang out, urging the cub to stay strong. Each second felt like an eternity as the mother assessed the shifting current, calculating her path, all the while keeping her eyes locked on the struggling little one. Finally, with a swift, determined leap, she reached the cub and grabbed it gently by the scruff of its neck. The cub, soaked and trembling, instinctively clung to her, finding comfort in her strength and presence. The mother adjusted her grip, careful not to hurt it while keeping it secure against the unpredictable force of the river. She began the grueling swim back toward the bank, muscles straining and lungs burning, fighting against the relentless surge of water. The river seemed to resist her every effort, tossing her and the cub around. Yet she refused to let go. She navigated through swirling currents, dodged floating debris, and kept her head above water, all while keeping the cub safe. Her determination was unwavering. The bond between mother and child gave her an almost superhuman courage and resilience. The cub, although scared, sensed its mother's resolve and clung tightly, trusting her completely. After what felt like endless minutes, the mother reached the edge of the river where the current was slightly weaker. With one final push of her powerful legs, she lunged toward the bank and collapsed onto the soft, muddy ground. The cub was safe in her embrace, shivering and soaked, but alive. She nuzzled it repeatedly, licking its fur and murmuring soft, reassuring sounds. Around them, the floodwaters continued their destructive journey, but the mother and cub lay together, their bond stronger than ever, hearts still racing from the ordeal. The rain fell harder now, turning the landscape into a blur of gray and green. The river had transformed into a raging, uncontrollable force, carrying everything in its path. The mother lion, her fur drenched and heavy with water, pressed forward through the storm. Each step required immense effort. The current fought against her at every turn, twisting her body and testing her strength. Yet her determination never wavered. Her cub, barely a few months old, was somewhere ahead, caught in the powerful flow, and she would not let it go. Branches, logs, and floating debris collided with her as she swam, each obstacle threatening to knock her off course. Her mind was entirely focused on the cub, scanning the swirling waters for any sign of movement. Then she saw it, a tiny, trembling body clinging to a piece of driftwood, being tossed violently by the currents. Her roar cut through the storm, a sound that seemed to shake even the wind and rain. The cub's ears flicked toward the sound, and it let out a small, frightened cry. With a powerful surge of her muscles, the mother lunged through the water, timing her movements perfectly against the waves and the debris. She reached the cub and gently grabbed it by the scruff of its neck, careful not to hurt it even as the river threatened to sweep both of them away. The cub clung to her instinctively, paws wrapping around her fur, trusting completely in her strength and courage. The mother adjusted her grip, swimming steadily while navigating the treacherous water, always keeping the cub close and protected. The journey back to safety was grueling. The river pushed and pulled, testing her every step, but she advanced relentlessly, eyes fixed on the riverbank. Her heart pounded, muscles burned, and the storm's fury pressed down on them. Yet she moved with precision that only instinct and love could provide. Every leap, every stroke, every effort was calculated to protect the cub and survive the raging flood. Occasionally, a particularly strong wave knocked them under briefly, and the mother fought to resurface, carrying the cub safely above the water. She used the waves to propel them forward whenever possible, letting nature's force aid her while avoiding the floating hazards. The cub, terrified but trusting, nestled against her neck, feeling the reassurance of her presence. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as they struggled against the river's relentless pull. Yet the mother's resolve never faltered. She could see the distant shore approaching, the muddy bank slowly drawing nearer, and that vision fueled every ounce of her strength. With one final push, she surged toward the riverbank, muscles straining, jaws holding the cub firmly, refusing to let go. They finally hit the edge of the water, tumbling onto the soft, wet earth. The mother immediately rose over the cub, checking for injuries while keeping herself ready for any further danger. The cub, exhausted and trembling, looked up at her with wide eyes, a mixture of fear and relief. The mother nuzzled it gently, licking its fur and murmuring soft, reassuring sounds. Around them, the storm still raged, but the mother and cub were safe on the riverbank, the bond between them stronger than ever. The mother lion stayed close, alert to any movement in the water, any sign that the river might threaten them again. The cub, slowly gaining its strength back, snuggled close, drawing warmth and comfort from her presence. In the midst of the storm, in the chaos of nature, the power of love, protection, and instinct shone brightly. The mother had faced the river's fury and emerged victorious, proving that courage and determination could overcome even the most terrifying challenges. On the riverbank, the cub finally shook itself, flicking muddy water in all directions, while the mother kept a watchful eye on the rushing waters. Slowly, the cub nuzzled against her, finding warmth and safety, understanding without words that the danger had passed for now. Around them, the storm continued, but their bond, their courage, and their trust in each other had proven stronger than the wildest force of nature.